Welcome to Clear the Air and Happy Pride. I'm Hannah Samad, VP Experience Strategy Director at RPA. If you follow the industry, you know that it's a loud and chaotic place. A lot of strong opinions, a lot of important conversations, and a lot of noise, too. So we're bringing clarity to the most important conversations of the day. 2024 is shaping up to be a year of focused progress, and for Pride, it's no different. The festivity this year feels quieter. In-store Pride collections have been reduced to a shelf, while brands have held off on rainbowifying their logos. Maybe by opting out of the celebration, industry is opting into a conversation. So let's start our conversation here at RPA. Today, we're handing it over to our LGBTQ+ employee resource group, the WorkFam ERG. Take it away, folks.
Happy Pride!
It's June. I'm Tyler Sweeney, for those who don't know me, but you all know me. My pronouns are he, him. We are all members of the WorkFam, so I thought, which is RPA's LGBTQ+ employee resource group, or ERG, lots of letters, but we're happy to be here for this month. Excited to be on this month's episode of CTA. Also groundbreaking, we're live and in person and recording. So we'll be coming both to your ears and your screens for the first time, which is exciting. I thought first to sort of set the stage, we should all go around your intros, who we are, and also if you could say one thing that you can't get out of your head. What's on repeat? A song, a movie, a TV show, something that you can't, get unstuck.
I'm Chip. I lead the talent acquisition team here at RPA. My pronouns are he, him. I think the thing that's stuck in my head right now is Ben Platt's new album.
Really?
Yeah.
I
need to listen to that.
It's pretty good.
Is it
Okay,
really?
wow.
There's lots of love in it, that's for sure.
Lots of love. Love that. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm Quinn Riffner. I am a senior strategist. My pronouns are she, her, and I cannot get the rise and fall of the Midwest Princess out of my head. I'm obsessed with Chapel Rowan. It's not even Good Luck Babe. It's like Pink Pony Club.
Yes.
It's Femininomenon. I'm just obsessed, and I'm so happy to live in the same time as Chapel Rowan.
It's a blessing, really.
It really
It really
is.
is.
It's long overdue.
It's-
She's been served she's amazing.
She's like 700,000 followers in the past month.
And good for her. She deserves them all.
Yeah, she does them all. So my name is Christian Brand. I'm an account executive here at RPA. And you all have heard me talk about this several times just before recording. The Wicked movie.
There's
what I
a
can't
Wicked
get out.
movie?
So for those of you who don't know, this is not sponsored by Universal or Wicked, but I am always happy to lend a voice to the Wicked movie, my favorite Broadway musical of all time. And now it's becoming a major motion picture.
This was
Forget
actually
about
the very first conversation Christian and I ever had was at a Pride event. I didn't know anybody. I was new to the agency, and I sat down to eat my charcuterie by myself. And he just turns to me and he goes, "Who does your favorite rendition of Defying Gravity?" And I was like,
Hang on. There was a precursor to that.
And I know, and there was a right and a wrong answer.
There was.
And
And there is.
I failed, but he still keeps me around.
I don't know why. It should be the first red flag.
Favorite rendition?
Oh, who's your favorite alphabet, basically?
There's a long list.
There's a long list.
Oh yeah, there is.
Happy to discuss this.
No.
And also,
I think Tyler has
we
a lot
have
of
a lot of
questions.
time.
Yeah,
for
I
us.
could talk about this forever.
It's going to be another podcast episode.
It
Right.
should be, yeah. Let me know.
Yeah.
RPA.
The one thing that I can't get out of my head is Sabrina Carpenter's Me Espresso.
Yes.
And she's got a new album coming out.
Yes,
Short and
she
sweet.
does.
Oh, love it. It's called Short and Sweet. Isn't that cute? Oh my
God.
She's so short.
And it's sweet.
Yeah.
I love it.
Okay, so moving on to today's episode and podcast, I do want to also have a little bit of a disclaimer or an asterisk with everything that's going on. We clearly, or not clearly, depending on your method of listening to this, don't fully represent the full queer spectrum, both in sexual orientation, but also diversity. One thing I think we all can agree on and talk about is that within the queer or LGBT plus community, there's a lot of intersectionality and diversity that exists. So we just want to make that note and put that out there. We, of course, are going to be speaking our own truths and our own representation, but we also fully acknowledge that this isn't going to be full encompassing of everyone in the community. It's not one sort of monolith, but we are jumping in and talking about everything LGBTQ plus and queer advertising related and how to support the community, especially given that it's Pride. But wanted to just throw that out there as an important note of discussion.
Thank you.
Okay, so jumping right in, the first point of topic and thing I wanted to talk about with you all is that it seems that Pride advertising or marketing this year is a little bit quieter. And some things that have come to light and headlines that are making the round in the trades are examples of Target. You know, they're running only their queer or LGBTQ Pride line in their stores, but only in half, and really selling a lot of things online. We've seen a lot of different advertisers pull back as well this year. They're not sort of as being upfront or vocal or even yelling or being as prideful, it seems like. Just curious what everyone's take is on that. A, what's your thought around that? And then B, why perhaps this is happening in this year? That's an election year. Things maybe have changed for our groups. There was a lot of backlash with some of the brands in their advertising last year. Just floating those two questions out as a jumping off point for us.
Yeah, I've actually been thinking something similar. At least Pride feels different to me. It does feel a little bit quieter in my heart, but not weaker, you know? And I think a big theme for Pride this year is the community coming together and coming back to its roots of community, mutual aid, and fighting oppression. And I think what's different about this year is our queerness has been a topic of conversation, especially geopolitically. And I think that is scaring brands to get involved in that conversation. And I think it's fine that you're, taking a back seat as long as you're taking that opportunity to listen, because right now I think our conversations are focused around areas of the world where maybe queerness isn't as supported, but those folks still need our help and still need our support. And so we're all kind of focused on organizing this year, maybe a little bit less celebrating. Not to say I didn't celebrate this weekend. You were there.
I was there.
But I think it's a really great opportunity for us to focus on the community for Pride this year. And I hope that brands use this kind of quiet solidarity to listen and to learn about the true roots of the queer community, which is mutual aid and community and collectivism, rather than putting a rainbow on your logo, donating money. We love money, money's great. But right now, I think we all just need to show solidarity with other queer folks around the world.
I like that perspective. I think a lot of companies too are also kind of bringing the conversations internally. So they're kind of having that internal conversation with their employees, their families, areas around the world that they have that influence. To, like you said, listen. It's like what, instead of throwing up a rainbow variation of our logo, how can we more intentionally support you and create an environment where there's that welcomeness behind the scenes? So it's not, I feel like it's still really there, but they're not flashing it.
Yeah.
Which, to your point, I'm like, I don't know how I feel. Like, there's part of me that's really outraged that they would kind of feel a certain way that maybe an organization couldn't be more upfront.
Yeah.
But I think it's also maybe a good thing.
Yeah.
That it's like, hey, if we still need to have these conversations, let's just take it into where it matters.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I hope they're having those conversations.
I hope so too.
Because part of me is thinking they're not, and that's what worries me, is that they're simply, this is like a reactive thing. True. Where the few that are very loud and vocal against Pride and Pride merchandise and the whole Pride month, they're reacting to that, taking their products, taking their step back, and not having those conversations, not internally reflecting. That's what I'm fearing is what we're seeing right now. And also with the election year, we are more divided as a country more than ever in the past few years. We've gotten to this point. And I think we're starting to see that from a marketing standpoint. So as much as I want to believe that, there's part of me that's I just don't know if we're getting those. I just don't know if we're having those conversations this year.
Yeah.
And that's what scares me.
Well, and part of me also thinks that maybe we all kind of bullied corporations into not making cheesy commercials anymore. And I kind of feel like that's a little victory for us.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
I mean, I wonder too, do you think there's a bit of, I don't know if backlash is the right word, but do you feel like maybe some of the companies are pulling back because there's been a bit of a backlash from our community around
I wouldn't even
don't
call
do
it
it
a
if you're not going
backlash.
to do
Yeah.
it.
I'd call it fatigue. I don't need every single business that I frequent to say, thanks, gay, happy pride.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Yeah.
I get it. Just let me get my sandwich and go. You don't have to put it on a rainbow
Right.
bagel.
That's true.
Although
Yeah.
rainbow bagels are good.
I don't know. I disagree.
Oh, there's one spot in New York that makes an amazing rainbow bagel. Just saying.
I'm glad I had lunch because I'd be hungry now.
I know.
What do you think, I've always had this sort of two duality mindset with Pride marketing and putting rainbows on all the products, right? Like on one hand, little kid in Wisconsin who may be having internal thoughts about being a member of the queer community sees a rainbow Listerine bottle and is like, oh, maybe it's a little bit more accepting. But when you have the brands that are pulling back, you see that a little bit less. It may have some sort of negative impact, right? In spaces that aren't as common. So what are some perhaps notes or advice we could give to others who aren't seeing Pride represented as heavily as it has been in the past?
You know, pardon me, being that little gay kid from Wisconsin, I think where we kind of find this like give and take with brands at Pride is, it's your money is wonderful. Thank you so much for your money. We really need to support LGBTQIA plus organizations financially, so that's fantastic. But I think it's also about your intentions with these campaigns. Is it so that your brand gets a little pat on the back from the community and we say, yay, you're so gay friendly, that's wonderful? Because you're right, it is important for us little kids to see those rainbows and feel the celebration, but it's also important that those things come from an authentic place. So using your Pride campaigns to tell stories about people growing up in Wisconsin. I didn't have anyone that was out in my personal community, and if I had had those stories earlier on, I would have been able to fully understand who I was before I had to leave Wisconsin,
And I think you're hitting on something else, because I would love to see that just outside of Pride Month. Like, I don't want to see a Pride commercial that features two queer parents. I want to see that year round for companies, making that normalizing of, seeing two dads, two moms, whatever that combination, whatever that family is.
Yep.
I want to see that throughout the year, not just running in June.
Absolutely.
And that's where I think a next step could be for more organizations, is just putting more queer family representation on screen throughout the year. Because the amount of times I just see a hetero family, it's 99.999% of the time.
Of course.
You never see them. And then you do only during June.
You're
and then
so
it's gone.
right. And a great way to enact that kind of change and to keep that top of mind throughout the entire year and not just in June or leading up to June is to hire more queer people. Not that you can hire someone specifically because they're queer, but you can reach out to queer organizations, queer hiring agencies, different things like that to increase the amount of lived diversity on your team.
Yeah. And if we're talking about this agency, I think starts, if the company has an agency, it starts from that agency just gently pushing more queer representation on, concept decks, creative decks, whatever, just so that they, might not be comfortable at it at first, but getting their eyes and getting their exposed to it, and eventually maybe one day pulling that trigger.
Okay, we were just talking about ways that we can market to our communities, having more representation in ads. But given that maybe some are being a bit more quieter this year, is there perhaps a different approach that we would recommend for them, given current landscapes moving forward? How would we, what things would we say and advise to that marketer that's listening to this, or this advertiser? It's like, I really want to speak to this community. This world is crazy right now. What's the best sort of method or approach that you guys think of?
I'll reiterate what I said earlier about telling real stories and highlighting people in the community rather than highlighting your brand's thoughts about the community. We have an example, Tyler, from Honda that we did a while back, where we were searching for a Pride campaign, and in that search we ended up finding a podcast where a group of lesbian friends traveled around the country in their Honda CRV and told the untold history of lesbian bars across America, which is a dwindling industry, unfortunately. And it was just so authentic, and it tied so well into our brand without us having to change anything. We didn't have to tell them how to do their podcast or how to love their Honda, because they did, and it was so authentic. And I think that that's one of the pieces that I'm honestly most proud of in my work, is that we didn't have to manufacture or change any of these authentic stories. We just had to highlight them and give them a platform.
Yeah.
Any other advice that we'd give?
I mean, it's also hard, right? If we're giving advice to a company, whereas we're essentially planning for next June. So we're planning for
Or not June, like you just suggested.
Or like not June, sorry. You're right. But we're still planning in the future, like
Yeah.
6+ months out for these companies to do this campaign. I reiterate what Quinn said, and I think also I truly just think just more representation and talent is a great way to start dipping your toes in to queer acceptance and queer advertising.
And perhaps not the role of an advertiser per se, but I think it's important for brands to look at themselves internally and think about how they could be supporting their queer employees better. There are different things like, of course, medical benefits to help with transitions or hormone replacement therapy and things like that. Those are kind of a little bit more obvious answers, but things like bereavement leave for non-relatives, where, our chosen families are factored in. That's such an important part of our community that isn't taken care of with our government benefits. And so companies offering those things is kind of a way of saying, like, we recognize that your life isn't traditional, and we love that about you, and we want to help you celebrate your family or your domestic partnership, or, be with you in your grief for someone who's not related to you, but you loved them just as much.
Yeah, we kind of take that approach here at RPA.
Yeah.
It's a very kind of what I would call an inclusive benefit strategy, whereas there are certainly some guidelines from a federal or state mandated level. But generally speaking, we kind of take it from a humanistic approach. It's like, you're a human first. If you lose somebody that's important to you, it doesn't have to be somebody that is a parent or a grandparent. If it's somebody that was instrumental or key influencer, impacted your life in a certain way, we want you to honor that, and we want to give you that ability. And I think a lot of companies are starting to have conversations around what those benefits look like. And I really think that a lot of the conversations that companies have had with our community were really key stepping off points for the changes in a lot of the benefits that we provide, that other companies provide. And I love that you call that out. It's like the traditional definitions that have existed around family or friends or spouses or whatever are kind of falling away, and more embracing the idea of, you are a human that is grieving right now. That's all that matters to us. Take the time you need to process through this. And I think that is going to be a pivotal moment. And again, not to get too far off from kind of the advertising suggestions, but I think if you want to think about attracting a diverse talent and a diverse group of people to an organization, you have to recognize that.
Absolutely.
And it may not resonate with you, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Right.
And that's
Well,
the big barrier.
To bring it full circle, I mean, in making those policy changes, it's important to have queer people there to talk about our relationships and what's needed and how they differ from, let's say, the norm.
Yep, exactly.
Are there any other things that we can think of in terms of offering support for our community in this year? Is it, we talked about leave for families or non-families as you can, but are there other sort of LGBTQ or queer items or things that we can think of that would be beneficial for us in support outside of Pride, and not necessarily solely related to advertising, but perhaps getting marketers or brands or companies just their house in order as they continue to make these external ventures? What are other ways that they could probably support our groups or communities more so that you can think of?
As I'm thinking about it, I love that question, because it really means that companies are now going to have to put their money where their mouth is, so to speak. You know, it's one thing for a company to rainbow wash for a month and give, you know, support a pride festival or whatever. But 11 months out of the year, when you have a family that's adopting 2 children, where's the support for that? Or if somebody's going through some sort of transition surgery or anything like that, where's the support for that? I think I think that the key is it has to live outside of this performative mindset that everybody seems to get into.
Exactly.
And that I think may be part of the reason that we're not seeing it so much this year.
Right.
Is because maybe there's more activity year round. I don't know.
Right. Or, what
That's
Tyler was
interesting.
saying about getting your house in order. You know, you can't say that you support these initiatives and these campaigns during June if you're not offering those benefits to trans employees, or if you don't have non-gendered bathrooms in your workplace, you are not actually supporting the community, you know? And a lot of these things seem trivial, but it all trickles down to putting your money where your mouth is, putting your policy where your mouth is. And I think, you know, a lot of the reason that brands are so quiet right now is because we as consumers have the tools to look into the comings and goings of your brand. We know where you're sending your money politically. We can look on Glassdoor and see how you're treating your, you know, queer employees. And I think it's really easy for us to gather receipts.
Yeah.
And it feels like brands are recognizing that, and I hope they are.
Yeah.
And you just click on something else. Like, that's another thing to watch, is watching these big corporations, where they're giving the money.
Yes.
What politicians are giving their money to, what organizations they're making charity donations, paying attention to all of that and seeing, are they putting their money behind people or organizations that are supporting queer people? And if the answer is no, I think you're right. We are starting to see that and stop supporting them as much.
Yeah.
Like I said, another reason why this could be a more quiet year, and hopefully a chance for people and organizations to reorganize and really look internally, make the change, and maybe this time, or maybe throughout the year, this time next year, whatever, we'll see those changes in place. And I really hope we do. We were going forward in the right direction, and I feel like we're kind of maybe taking a step to reflect, pause, and then continue on. So that's my hope for this year, and why we're seeing a little quietness.
Yeah. I often equate recruiting or talent attraction to marketing and sales. And if I am out there representing a company and I'm saying this is what the company offers and this is how you can grow and thrive, and then you get here and that's not the case,
Yeah.
it is an incredibly damaging moment for your organization. I think the same way. And maybe that's another reason why it's like the companies are being a little more introspective, because there's a lot of companies for the last several years that appeared to be very supportive of our community, but in actuality, we find out that's not true. And how damaging is that? You know, so I often look at it through the same lens. I'm like, you have to really, if you don't want to do it, don't do it, because then it's performative or it's disingenuous, and it makes it even worse.
Oh, absolutely. Because the second you get feedback, if you keep quiet or if you back down, you're no ally to me.
Yeah.
Well, and we all know last year's beverage company that is a perfect example of what you're talking about. They made a decision.
Yep.
They brought this queer person onto their campaign. Look at the backlash. Stayed quiet. Now look where they're at.
Yeah.
So, and I'm sure a lot of brands saw that and are maybe thought twice about this year, and maybe gonna make some change.
Yeah. True.
Okay, guys, that was a long and lengthy, lovely discussion about everything pride and marketing. But I will ask, did we leave anything off the table? Anything other points or thoughts that you guys had on this topic or pride that you'd like to get out there and put into the world?
Do you? I mean, you've been leading this.
Yeah.
You certainly have some
Tyler,
thoughts on
what are your
this.
thoughts on pride?
Come on.
No, I mean, I think it's an interesting year for sure for marketers, and I was agreeing with everything that you guys were saying in terms of getting the message out there, making sure that the brands are sort of walking the walk and talking the talk for themselves. I think we are fortunate enough, being who we are, where we are at the place that we're working, to have the support system and the employee resource group that is the Work Fam, for us to have these conversations. I think we we're always in a place of where we are, reflective of where we are as sort of an industry, but also wanting to push the envelope and keep moving in the direction that we need to. And I'm hoping, as we all were saying, that this year is one where that does happen, and whether that is sort of an outward thing that's being expressed or something that's being internally focused on, we got to keep fighting for what we think is right, really.
I love that.
Yeah, I couldn't say it any better. That was nice.
I love that.
Beautiful.
Okay, well, I think that's going to be our wrap for this lovely little episode. We like to, of course, thank the agency and everyone for allowing us to have this wonderful platform. Keep tuning in to every other CT episode that is coming to your ears, and thank you guys for joining me today.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Happy Pride.
And that's a wrap. Thanks to Tyler Sweeney, Chip Peck, Quinn Rufner, and Christian Brand for sharing their insight on the future of Pride Month and LGBTQ+ inclusivity in the industry. And thank you, listeners, for clearing the air with us. To keep the conversation going, find RPA on your favorite social channels and keep an eye out for new episodes whenever you listen. I'm Hannah Samad, closing out.